You're watching the Council in Brief. I'm Susan Kennedy. We're here with the latest news of the Montgomery County Council. Up first, a press conference held by Councilmember Will Juando to discuss the approval of the Law Enforcement Transparency and Trust Act. The vote was unanimous in favor of Councilmember Juando's bill, and he was joined by several of his council colleagues to discuss how he hopes this measure will improve transparency.
Everyone will acknowledge that when someone dies, that's a tragedy for our community. The police agree with that, and the community certainly agrees with that.
The legislation seeks to improve the public's trust in law enforcement and eliminate the possibility of conflict of interest in police-involved death investigations. This is Councilmember Juando's first piece of legislation to be approved.
We still have some issues here in Montgomery County, and that this would go in the right direction for making sure that when our police officers are involved in the death of a resident, that we have an independent investigation and that investigative report be made public so that the community can look at it and learn from it.
The bill was introduced after a confrontation between police and Silver Spring resident Robert White, which resulted in White's death last summer. Under the LET Act, when an officer is involved in the death of an individual, investigators from a separate jurisdiction will open an inquiry to review the circumstances of the case. Juando says this bill is a first step in rebuilding trust between the community and the police.
And we have a unique opportunity, a new police chief. I'm going to be leading a community forum with Mark Elrich on June 6th to talk to the community about what they want to see from their police chief, what they want to see is by ways of community policing. And so the next step is to get that input and then really ask tough questions of the person or persons who are before us about what does that mean? What do you think community policing means? What do you think about these disparate numbers that 55% of the people arrested in this county in 2018 were black, even though they only represent 19% of the population? How do we change that? How do we make sure we build that trust?
The bill now moves to the county executive for his signature. In other news, residents and officials rallied at the Silver Spring Civic Building to voice their displeasure on a plan that would add toll lanes to this county's most heavily traveled roadway. A record-breaking crowd at the Silver Spring Civic Building on a rainy Sunday.
Wow.
For a town hall meeting on plans to widen the Capitol Beltway and I-270 organized by Councilmember Tom Hucker.
We're the experts on congestion in Montgomery County, not folks in Hanover, Maryland at the Department of Transportation.
The meeting was put together in just 1 week in advance of a critical vote by the Maryland Board of Public Works to approve the public-private partnership plan to widen and toll the roadway.
And people obviously feel very, very anxious and threatened, and they're so frustrated with the process that State Highway Administration has gone through to date.
Officials,
it's flat out a mistake, and it's not going to work.
And residents of all ages who are opposed to the plan were on hand to condemn the proposal.
We don't need to go back to mid-20th century answers to 21st century problems.
Transportation is the largest source of pollution. Climate change must be central to every decision that we're making.
Widening doesn't work. It is not a long-term congestion solution.
Study after study, that just widening highways doesn't take cars off the road. It creates more congestion later, creates more sprawl, and encourages people to make bad decisions and live farther from where they work.
When the plan was first introduced, state officials assured county leaders no homes would be taken in the process.
We have no plan whatsoever to take your houses.
It's unclear today if that is still the case.
That is reneging on a promise.
They want to take half acre of my property, which is the conservation easement for. I want to know whether they should be able to steal our land.
Residents say the plan is too pricey and would permanently affect quality of life.
Thank you for fighting as it's my home.
Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it.
The Board of Public Works is scheduled to vote on the proposal later this month. In the meantime, Hucker says residents need to let the governor, comptroller, and state treasurer know their thoughts on this $15 billion proposal. Well, that does it for this edition of the Council in Brief. For County Cable Montgomery, I'm Susan Kennedy.